This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, I could see it.
Here you are.
Okay.
There you go.
Am I in there?
You're in.
Oh, I see me. Okay. Who do we still not have, Steph?
I don't know. I'm gonna do if we're ready. If we're ready to get started, I'll do roll call.
Okay, I'll start the meeting. By the authority vested in me, I hereby declare this meeting of the Conshohocken Borough Council duly open and ready to conduct any business that may come before it. Ms. Checo, roll call.
Councilmember Tatino.
Present.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Flanagan.
Here.
Councilmember Barton. Councilmember Stokely.
Here.
Vice President Sokolowski.
Here.
President Leonard.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
So we are just waiting on Anita.
Okay, do you think we should just start?
Why don't you give it just another minute or two?
Okay.
I'll try to call her right now.
I think Tina, did you do that? No.
Stephanie, testing your camera. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, as we are waiting for, we'll wait another minute. Can we just remind everyone to mute their lines? There's some major feedback.
Yes.
Anita, are you on yet?
Okay, she's not on. I have her and I'm giving her the correct access code. So 1 second.
I think maybe we should get started since it's 7:05 while we wait.
Right, and it's saying that Anita's arrived, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anita,
I
are you
Okay.
on?
got her in.
Okay. Thank you for joining us for our regularly scheduled public work session via video conference and/or conference call. At this time, I would like to ask all participants mute their audio lines. No public comments will be permitted during the course of the meeting until the designated public comments section located on the agenda. You will be notified during the meeting when public comments are permitted. You may also submit written comments via email to brodgers@conshahockenpa.gov. A member of Borough Administration during the public comment period will read your comments submitted in this manner. For all comments, please include your name and address for the record. It is of the utmost importance that the public be given every available opportunity to participate in the meeting. However, if required, we will mute all audio lines due to any inappropriate comments or behavior during the remote meeting. Borough Council and Administration, thank you in advance for your cooperation during the remote meeting. We hope that everyone in our community is staying safe and healthy. The first item on the agenda is land use matters, public hearings, and ordinances. The first item is consider granting conditional use approval for 541 East Hector Street. Mr. Peters, if you could review that.
Thank you, President Leonard. This is and do we have the court reporter on the line? I do see.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So if we could please go on the record at this time. This is the continued date and time for the conditional use application of Craft Custom Homes, LLC, for the property located at 541 East Hector Street. The applicant seeks conditional use approval from zoning ordinance section 27-1903-B.11 to permit a building height of 40 feet in the residential overlay district. Council held a hearing on this matter at their work session in September. It was continued twice to this date, and it is now before you for consideration. Before you consider the matter, I do have one additional Borough exhibit. That's Exhibit B6. Exhibit B6 is a letter from applicant's counsel, Ed Hughes Esquire, to the Borough Conshohocken Council, sending the letter to extend the time period within which you had to vote on this application to this evening, October 7th, 2020. With that, if council is inclined, administration has worked through a number of conditions should you choose to grant this application that as an administrative matter we would recommend imposing, and those conditions would be as follows. Applicant shall obtain the approval of the borough traffic engineer for the traffic flow in and out of the property. Applicant shall perform a traffic analysis within 6 months of 75% occupancy. The traffic analysis shall be based on actual traffic counts generated by the project and on the actual traffic on surrounding roadways. The purpose of the traffic analysis is, inter alia, to confirm whether the traffic flow in and out of the property should be reversed or modified. Applicant shall submit such information as part of the analysis as required by the borough's traffic engineer to confirm the appropriate traffic flow in and out of the property. As part of this condition, applicant shall not be required to make structural changes to the project. Applicant may be required to change the traffic flow in and out of the project, necessitating changes to signage and/or other markings. Applicant shall post financial security in the amount of $7,500 as part of its overall financial security for the project's public improvements, as security for the cost of the traffic analysis and potential modifications. Any modifications to the traffic flow shall be completed prior to the borough's final release of the financial security for the project. Condition 3, applicant shall provide additional plantings, planters, or other landscaping elements around the perimeter of the property to the satisfaction of the borough. Applicant shall provide alternative lighting to the satisfaction of the borough to improve pedestrian visibility around the perimeter of the property. Applicant shall obtain the approval of the borough fire marshal and emergency management coordinator for the proposed emergency ingress and egress to, from, and throughout the site. Applicant shall obtain the approval of the borough for the design of the East Hector Street facade pursuant to applicant's agreement to replace the stucco proposed for that facade with stone. And finally, construction of the project shall substantially comply with the representations made by the applicant in its application and at the hearing in this matter, including with respect to the materials submitted with applicant's application and the testimony and exhibits introduced at the hearing. Those are the conditions that administration would propose. This matter, should you grant it this evening, the applicant tomorrow would receive a notice of decision, and then there would be a full decision with findings of fact and conclusions of law, which I'll note is already drafted, although I can't complete it until council makes a decision one way or another. So those are the proposed conditions. And at this time, if you're inclined, a motion to approve conditional use approval subject to those conditions would be appropriate.
So I would ask council a motion to approve 541 East Hector Street conditional use application to be memorialized in a formal written decision with conditions.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Sokolowski.
second it. Tutino.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next
With-
item on the,
oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
Mike.
I just need to close out the hearing with the court reporter. With that, we'll close out the hearing and thank the court reporter. And Colleen, I apologize for interrupting you. Please go ahead.
Oh, no problem, Mike. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is consider approving resolution 2020-24, approving preliminary final land development for 541 East Hector Street. Again, Mr. Peters.
Thank you, President Leonard. This is the same project that we just spoke of with respect to the conditional use. The project, just to remind council, is a 3-story multifamily building with 12 dwelling units over a ground level of 25 parking spaces, as well as associated improvements. In addition to the conditional use that this council just granted, the applicant obtained certain variances from the zoning hearing board. Relevant to council is the condition placed upon that relief, which was that the dwelling units contain no more than 2 bedrooms each. The applicant has requested a number of waivers that we will run through when I actually read through, again, a set of proposed conditions prepared by administration. The resolution that was circulated to you earlier would grant conditional, preliminary, and final approval, subject to compliance with the following conditions. Condition number 1, applicant is granted the requested waiver from SAUDO section 22306A1, which is the requirement to show all existing features within 100 feet, provided the applicant submit all information as deemed necessary by the borough engineer. Condition 2, the applicant would be granted the requested waiver from SAUDO section 22-308C to permit only one submission for preliminary and final land development. Condition 3, the applicant would be granted the requested waiver from SAUDO section 22-404.2.a to permit proposed driveways and curb cuts within the front yard setbacks of East Hector Street and East Elm Street, subject to the condition that the applicant obtain the approval of the borough traffic engineer for the traffic flow. Condition 4, the applicant would be granted the requested waiver from SAUDO section 22404.3.f parentheses 4 to permit proposed parking to be located closer than 10 feet from the right-of-way. Applicant would be granted the requested waiver from SAUDO section 22-404.3.g to permit a 3-foot curb radius for the curbing near the accessible parking area. Condition 6, applicant would be granted the requested waiver from the requirements of SAUDO section 22-409.2 to permit grading within 3 feet of the property line. Condition 7, applicant would be granted a partial waiver from the street tree requirements of SAUDO section 22-421.4 to permit the applicant to, number 1, pay a fee in lieu, and to, number 2, the applicant must provide additional plantings, planters, or other landscaping elements around the perimeter of the property, which is a condition.
Keep going.
Condition 8, applicant will be granted a waiver from SAUDO section 22-421.5 to excuse the requirement of providing a 6-foot high landscape screening for the multifamily development. That's subject to the condition of the additional landscape improvements that were already discussed. Number 9, applicant would be granted a partial waiver from SAUDO section 22-421.6 to excuse the requirement of pedestrian lighting along East Hector Street, provided the applicant's agreement to work with the borough for alternative lighting to ensure and improve pedestrian visibility around the perimeter of the property. Applicant would be granted a partial waiver from the requirements of SAUDO section 22-804 to permit a payment of a fee in lieu of park and rec space in the amount of $48,000. Condition 11, applicant would comply with the review letter of Gilmore and Associates. Condition 12, with the review letter of the Borough Zoning Officer. Condition number 13, with the review letter of the Montgomery County Planning Commission and required by the Borough. Condition 14, the applicant shall obtain the approval of the Borough Fire Marshal and Emergency Management Coordinator for the proposed emergency ingress and egress to, from, and throughout the site. Condition 15, applicant shall obtain the approval of the Borough Traffic Engineer. Condition 16, the applicant shall execute a stormwater operations and maintenance agreement subject to my review and approval. Condition 17, the applicant shall execute a land development and escrow agreement for the project satisfactory to me and subject to my review and approval. Condition 18, applicant shall satisfy any and all outstanding invoices from the borough relative to the project. Condition 19, applicant shall comply with the conditions of the zoning hearing board decision. Condition 20, applicant shall comply with the conditions of the conditional use decision, which you just announced. Condition 21, applicant shall obtain the approval of the borough solicitor for the HOA documents to be recorded with respect to the project. Condition 22, the applicant shall obtain the approval of the borough for the design of the East Hector Street facade. Again, this was part of the discussion with applicant when it was before you with respect to the land development application. And condition 23, applicant shall abide by all terms of the resolution itself. If council is so inclined, the motion would be to approve the resolution as drafted.
I'll make that
Okay, so
motion. Anita.
Okay,
I'll second it, Tutino.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is under council business. Consider awarding a bid for the generator transfer switch installation project at the community center.
Yes, so
I would,
just President Leonard as a background, so we authorized the advertisement of the construction bids for the transfer switch, the community center. They were
Yes.
advertised. We received 5 bids. There is a bid tabulation that was included in your meeting upload materials with an award recommendation. That award recommendation is for Greg A. Vitry Incorporated for the total amount of $42,000. That falls within the budget amount that is in your capital of $10,000 for the generator, and then a portion of what was the HVAC project at $32,000. So it is a budgeted item. We would be looking to close this out in 2020 as a capital item. If you have any questions, engineer Mr. Hine is on the call. If there are no questions, then it is simply a motion this evening to award the bid for the generator transfer switch installation in the total amount of $42,000 to Greg A. Vitry Incorporated.
I'll make
I
that
don't have any-
motion, Sokolowski.
I'll second it, Tutino.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Owen,
Ms.
for joining the call.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. So then the next item on the agenda is to review board and commission vacancies. This is a no vote discussion only this evening. Ms. Checo?
So we are preparing for the conclusion of 2020 and moving forward into 2021. We had discussed the concept of boards and commissions and vacancies prior to COVID, so I'm revisiting that topic. I just want to give everyone an idea of where we stand in terms of vacancies and applicants that we've received. So the Board of Code Appeals right now, there are 2 vacancies. The Dog Park Advisory Committee has 6 vacancies. The Environmental Advisory Council has 3 vacancies. The Marywood Park Commission has 1 vacancy. The Planning Commission has 2 vacancies. Zoning Hearing Board has 2 vacancies. We have 1 vacancy for the position of Zoning Hearing Board alternate and 1 vacancy for the vacancy board. So this evening, what I'm looking for in terms of direction is we have certain applicants who applied to openings prior to COVID that you had interviewed. So my first question is, are you inclined to want to interview those individuals again since it's been such an extended period of time? That's question
I
one.
would, okay. I would like to do the interviews again because I think it's been since February.
It has
I'd like
been.
to too.
I would also like to revisit it.
Okay, so it sounds like anyone who's been interviewed prior to that February date, we will get them on an agenda to be re-interviewed. We have applicants in for certain positions, so I will schedule those to also be interviewed. We will continue to advertise for the vacancies. We will push out a new round of these are all the vacancies that exist, and we will be appointing and interviewing in the next couple of months leading into 2021. I think that a good goal here is to get applicants interviewed over the course of November and December and start appointing for their new roles moving into 2021. Is everyone in agreement with that plan?
Yes.
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 Okay. There was a letter from the EAC that was in your upload on Friday, just to make sure you're aware. They specifically asked for council to consider a chair and vice chair that they've put forth, and to also ask for nominations. So I will get back to them and let them know that, yes, we will be moving forward with interviewing applicants. And when those applicants are finalized to be interviewed, that council will also consider the chair and vice chair for appointment in 2021. That's my understanding of how council would like to handle that. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Yes, I
Yes.
think if we start the new year off in a bang.
Okay, I will let them know that we're looking forward to it. And then the last, in terms of boards and commissions, there are individuals. So usually on an annual basis at the December work session, we hold a special meeting to interview any individuals that are up for reappointment moving into 2021. So there are 8 individuals: Marty Eckert for the Civil Service, Tim Beckel for the EAC, Stacy Ellum for Human Relations, Mark Danick for Zoning Hearing Board, Marissa Buck, Georgina Weber, and Mackenzie Braylinger for Dog Park Advisory Committee, and then Sarah Aronson for Friends of Conchi Parks. So they are all up for reappointment. My question to you is, do you want to move forward with the same protocols that you've done in the past, where you re-interview them to determine for reappointment in January? Would you like them to write a letter or an email expressing their interest and why they're interested and handle it that way? Just trying to think what is best in our current environment. Any input?
Stephanie,
I would be supportive of the letter.
I would be supportive of the letter or an email.
Yeah. Agree.
Anyone else? Any comments?
I just
Okay.
hesitate.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I just hesitate because we've put processes in place. Are we not using our process because, are we saying we're not using our process because of COVID? Or are we not using our process and that's what we'll set moving forward? That's the only hesitation I have.
The process that we have in place has been extremely efficient and has worked. So the only consideration for a letter or an email is because of COVID. If we feel as though that we can move forward with a virtual interviewing of candidates, then that's what we'll do. We're planning for the end of the year and the beginning of 2021.
So I'm more comfortable staying with a consistent process so that we keep consistent. That's my opinion.
Okay, anyone else have any comments on that? Go ahead, Steph.
So what it sounds like, what I will do is we know we have candidates that have interviewed and need to be re-interviewed. and we have applicants that have applied that also need to be interviewed. So in an essence of time, I will see how many we can fit in along with the individuals that need to be reappointed. And if everyone can make a virtual appearance and do an interview, that is what we will do.
Can
If
we
there's-
give them the option of doing it? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can we give them the option of the letter or a personal interview, virtual interview? Does that make sense?
I think we need to do one or the other.
One or the other? Okay. Stick to
Right.
consistency.
I'll-
Okay.
I think what
Yes.
might work best is if we go the interview route and there's any issues, then I will come back to all of you and let you know. So we'll stick with what we were doing. And if there seems to be an issue, then I'll give you a heads up and we can make a
Okay.
decision, an alternate decision at that point. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then the final item for boards and commissions, the Dog Park Advisory Committee. It's going to be a topic of conversation moving into 2021 from an administrative standpoint in terms of whether the Dog Park Advisory Committee was formed specifically because we were transitioning between a private entity managing the dog park and the borough taking over management of it. That management now, thanks to individuals like Marissa Buck and Mackenzie Braylinger and Lauren and Ray, has gone smoothly. I just don't know if a committee is necessary at this point to continue doing the work that it's been doing. And if it's not, then I would like to be able to go back to the individuals, someone like Marissa Buck, and ask her to devote her time to something else since we have all these vacancies. So you can just start thinking about whether or not the Dog Park Advisory Committee still serves a role that is needed. It is going to be a discussion point moving into 2021 from an administrative standpoint.
Okay.
So Stephanie, right now the dog park is functioning as one of our community parks,
That's
correct?
Yes.
And that's how we will maintain it, take care of it for the
That is
future.
correct. Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
So Stephanie, I understand that we interview the boards and the commissions. My question is, at what point do those boards and commissions have an opportunity to go through, meet, and interview the same individuals before they actually become candidates?
Karen, you're breaking up.
Yeah, I hear the background. Okay, I think it's,
Okay,
thank
you're better.
you, Anita. Yeah, okay, thank you. So as far as our different boards and committees, the commissions, I understand that we interview them. My question is, when do those boards and committees have an opportunity to meet and interview those same individuals? At what point does that happen?
If it does not happen, because the way the ordinances are written, Borough Council is the entity that appoints any individuals to the boards and commissions that they deem needed to conduct borough business.
I would like to recommend that we make some type of revision to that to give the opportunity for those boards and commissions to meet with the individual, some form of an interview. They know best what is involved and what would be the best fit as part of that team. I think that maybe if it would be narrowed down to certain individuals and then brought before us, I would like to make that suggestion.
Well, in the case of what you have right now, you don't have enough applicants to fill vacancies you currently have.
So if that's the case, then we are essentially
Anita.
automatically accepting that individual.
Turn off your mic.
Sorry.
There you go.
So in that case, what we're saying is if there is only one applicant, then we are accepting that one applicant.
You're not accepting it, you're interviewing them to determine if you want to accept them or not.
Okay, so then if that's the case, I think that that same privilege should be granted to that particular board or committee, whatever the case may be. So they have that opportunity.
So just to
So,
make it.
Karen, in the process that we have set up, we, based on the ordinance, we interview. We do not need to appoint that same day. We could have the committee members sit and listen into the interviews, and then we could have discussions with them afterwards before we decide on anything. And then that would alleviate having to change ordinances and take up that time. If that's, it's going to take a while to change an ordinance, but we could change our process where we don't appoint right away and we have discussions with the committee members on their thoughts before
Okay, that would satisfy what I'm looking to do. I think
Okay.
that would be helpful.
So what we can do, Karen, is since every interview is done in a public meeting, we would just notify the individuals that are currently on the committees that there are interviews taking place, and they're welcome to join the public meeting and listen to the interviews. And if they have any feedback, then we never appoint on the same night. So we would ask for any feedback over the course of the 2 weeks in between work session and voting session. And I think as Council Member Sokolowski said, that should hopefully satisfy what you're looking for.
Yes, yes. I think they just need to play a more integral role in that.
Okay.
And I would say that what we could do is, you know, if any of us have conversations with any of those boards or commissions, what it is they're looking for, and do they have specific questions that they'd like us to ask?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, there is an administrative liaison and an elected official liaison, so we would lean heavily on those individuals who serve in those roles to communicate that back and forth. That's no problem. The structure is there for it to take place.
Great.
And I believe in the past that the committees have always given their recommendations anyway for the applicants. That's not something new. Am I correct in that, Mayor Aronson?
Yeah, I mean, as an advisor, I talk to council, whenever I have a recommendation or thought. So I expect those conversations to continue.
Okay.
Okay. Well, President Leonard, that's what I have on boards and commissions. So I have my marching orders, and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. The next item on the agenda is manager matters. So I will actually turn that over to Ms. Checo again.
In March, the mayor proclaimed a local disaster emergency in the borough of Conshohocken due to COVID-19 in Montgomery County, and we are simply extending the local disaster emergency through November 4th, 2020. If so inclined, I would need a motion to approve Resolution 2025 approving an extension of the local disaster emergency until November 4th, 2020.
I'll make that motion.
The Flanagan motion, is there a second?
I'll make that motion. Ike Griffin.
We'll have Ike second. So all in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is that while the local disaster emergency persists in the borough of Conshohocken, we are following guidelines and recommendations to curb the spread of COVID, which includes an emphasis on takeout and outdoor seating for dining. In an effort to facilitate takeout and outdoor dining, we've established certain no parking areas along Fayette Street between East First Ave and East Second Ave. And those parking regulations are set to expire in mid-October. So the resolution in front of you is simply extending those temporary no parking areas for a period of 90 days. If so inclined, the motion would be to approve Resolution 2020-26, extending the no parking areas within the temporary no parking areas within the borough.
I'll make that motion, Sokolowski.
I'll second it. Griffin.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Riverwalk had a permit application for work to the exterior and the pool area. So the borough engineer and our commercial building inspector had to, there were some costs associated with the review of those materials, and there was a professional service escrow set up with the borough. We are simply recommending release of that professional service escrow since the work is complete in the amount of $4,434.48. I just need a motion to approve the release of the escrow.
Mike Griffin, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, Flanagan.
All in favor? Aye.
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 No opposed?
I was waiting for the rest of the ayes, but I'll go all opposed. Motion carries.
239-301 West 4th was a land development project that was phased into two. Phase 1 construction was finalized in 2016. This evening, we are asking that you approve the release of professional service escrow in the amount of $899.78.
I'll make that motion. Anita?
I'll second. Griffin.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries.
Again, phase 2 has also been reviewed by the borough engineer, and there is a recommendation to release escrow. This is the release of the final security escrow in the amount of $9,192.25.
I'll make that motion. Anita?
I'll second. Griffin.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I think that was for staff. Motion carries.
Okay. There is a winter traffic services supplemental agreement that the borough enters into with PennDOT. This was approved back earlier this year. There was a change to the form. PennDOT made a change to the form. So the first item is to approve resolution 2020-27, which authorizes the extension of the municipal winter services supplemental agreement with PennDOT. That is where we plow, salt state roads, and then PennDOT reimburses us for that work. So this is a supplemental change. That is your first motion.
Mike Griffin, I'll make that motion. I'll second it, Stokely.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And then the next item is for the same agreement. However, this is to extend the winter services agreement with PennDOT for 5 years from 2021 through 2025. The motion is to approve resolution 2020-28, authorizing the execution of the municipal winter services agreement with PennDOT for the years 2021 through 2025.
I'll make that motion, Flanagan.
Second.
I'll second. Anita?
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Ms. Stetler has developed a 3-year community development plan, and this 3-year development plan is required in order for the borough to apply for, expend, and qualify for CDBG funds. It indicates what services can and cannot be funded with CDBG funds. There are short and long-term goals that are identified. It deals specifically with housing, public facilities, community services, and economic development that fall within the CDBG program. Without this 3-year plan, again, we cannot complete an application and submit for the funding. So it is an administrative item that needs to be completed and then approved by our elected body. It is on your agenda this evening for you to simply review. If you have any questions over the course of the next 2 weeks, Ms. Stetler is prepared to answer any or provide any clarification. Is there anything this evening that you need brought back to Ms. Stetler If not, then we will give you the course for the next 2 weeks to send in anything that you may have, and it'll be back on your agenda on the 21st for a vote.
No questions? Thank you, Steph.
Okay. Sora West, the Sora project will be back in front of you for an amendment on the hotel and the historic firehouse portion of the project. That will be in front of you potentially informally in November and then formally in December, depending on their timeline in terms of working through the land development process. With that being said, Keystone Property Group is applying for a RACP grant with the state for the construction of the hotel and redevelopment of the historic firehouse site. They have asked the borough for a letter of support. A copy of the letter was attached in your meeting documents. If you're inclined this evening, I would ask you to consider approving a letter of support for the Sora West RACP grant application. This would be in supplement to the RACP grant that they already have through the state.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm recusing myself, Stokely.
Thank you, Bob. All opposed? Motion carries.
The Colonial Area Democratic Committee have submitted a special event application for consideration by council. They are requesting to do a walk for progress on October 18th from 4:30 to 6. They're requesting use of Marywood Park, which is why it is in front of you this evening. If you are inclined, I would need a motion to approve the special event request for the Democrats for a walk for progress at a no-fee structure.
I'll make that motion, Cutino.
I'll second it, Anita.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion
All opposed.
carries.
I'm sorry, what, Bob, you cut out at the end.
I'm opposed, Stokely.
Okay,
Okay, we have it for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
yep. Next item?
St. Matt's has been hosting outdoor church services. They've requested to extend that for October 4th and October 11th. So your motion in front of you is to approve their fee waiver request for use of the A field for outdoor church services for October 4th and 11th.
Hey, Griffin, I'll make that motion.
Second, Sokolowski.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I am all done. Manager matters, Council President.
Thank you, Ms. Checo. The next item on the agenda is Department Matters. Consider approving Resolution 2020-29, authorizing the sale of the borough vehicles through Municipid. Mr. Sokolowski, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
We have several vehicles that are going to go on Municipid for sale. Two of the vehicles, more notably than other, are the two fire trucks. So we have a 2003 engine from an E1 engine that's with 15,000 miles on it. That's going to go up for bid, and that's from Station 36. And then a 2003 engine from Station 35 that will also be going up. That has 17,000 miles on it. For the Public Services Department, there's a 2011 Ford Expedition with 43,000 miles on it. The Police Department has two vehicles, a 2008 Ford Escape and a 2013 Chevy Tahoe. The Ford Escape has 85,000 miles and the Chevy Tahoe has 66,000 miles. All of those will be going on, if approved, tomorrow morning.
Does
Any
council have any
questions?
questions?
I
No,
don't have any questions. I'll make that motion.
I'll read the
second.
motion. How about if we read the motion? Motion to approve Resolution 2020-29, authorizing the sale of borough vehicles through municipal bid. Can we have the motion now?
I'll make that motion. Ike Griffin. Ed Stokely.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. The next item is for discussion only this evening. It is consider approving the emergency action plan for the Plymouth Creek Flood Protection Project. Mr. Sokolowski, if you would like to explain.
The area around Caldwell Lane that goes down Caldwell Lane and then behind the Grand and down into the Schuylkill River as an outlet is on. It had been redone several years back by the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, and the borough entered into an agreement at that time for the borough to maintain that stormwater system. The DEP, along with the Army Corps of Engineers, every 2 years comes and does a inspection of that. We have operation budget money set aside every year to do maintenance and repairs to that as needed. Part of their plan, or part of their inspections includes a review of documentation that the borough has as to what they're doing with the Plymouth Creek. One of the documents that has never been, one of the documents that has been overlooked in the past is this flood protection plan. So the flood protection plan basically covers what would happen in the event that that area of Plymouth Creek ended up into the street onto Caldwell Lane. So we've developed a plan based on some of the strategies and information we got for them. So it is required by DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, and we will have one now. And it's even more important now that we actually have more residentials along Caldwell Lane that we have to deal with during a flood. Any questions on that?
So just to supplement Mr. Sokolowski, the work that was done to actually generate an entire emergency action plan is extensive. I draw your attention to the fact that this is a new initiative that has been taken on by the Emergency Management Department. And if you review the plan over the next 2 weeks and you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Mr. Sokolowski directly, and it will be on your agenda on the 21st for a vote.
Thank you, Ray. Okay. The next item on the agenda under legal matters, Mr. Peters.
Thank you, and I will be much shorter this time.
Yes.
You have before you this evening two matters with respect to the 51 Washington project. They both relate to the requirement that the applicant relocate Washington Street. The applicant has been doing the work to relocate Washington Street and also the work on the SEPTA parking lot. During the time that that work was being done, there was a temporary easement that went through the applicant's property. So this evening, you're considering two things, and we'll take them one at a time. So the first would be with respect to that temporary access easement, it would now shift off of the applicant's property and into the area of the relocated Washington Street. And as a result, that allows the applicant to begin the work on the property itself, again, without this temporary access easement being in the road. The second item is to consider an ordinance that would actually accept Washington Street. So Washington Street under the land development plan was required to be relocated and then given to the borough as a borough road. So this evening, the order on the agenda, the first would be to accept Washington Street as a borough road as relocated. You have to pass an ordinance which must be advertised twice. So the first motion, if you're inclined, would be to authorize advertisement of ordinance 02-2020 to accept dedication and opening of Washington Street. I'll tell you that your engineer has been on site to inspect Washington Street, and the street is far enough along that if we begin the advertising process, there should be no issue with you formally accepting dedication, and that will not be until a meeting in November, just because of the advertising requirements. So that is the first motion, President Leonard, a motion to consider advertising.
Okay. Can I have a motion on that, please?
I'll make that motion. Sokolowski?
I'll second
it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And the second matter would be to approve an amendment to the temporary access easement. It would extinguish the access easement that's on the 51 Washington property, and again, shift the easement to the relocated Washington Street. For your purposes, it is the same easement form that we used for the temporary easement when it was on the applicant's property. So the applicant's responsible to maintain it, and the applicant is responsible for ensuring its safe passage. So with that, I have reviewed the access easement agreement, and I would recommend that you consider approving it, again, subject to administration and my final review and work with applicant's counsel.
Okay. So the motion is to approve the first amendment to the temporary public access easement agreement for 51 Washington Street.
I'll make that motion. Griffin. I'll second it. Stokely.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
And that's all I have under legal matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Next item on the agenda is council member and mayor matters. We will start with Mayor Aronson.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Just
welcome.
want to give a reminder that the Friends of Conshohocken Parks are selling shirts that say "I Park in Conchi," and they're really fun shirts. So I made a post this week. Sarah and I wore our shirts outside the park house, and we're encouraging everyone to get theirs to support all the great work that the committee's doing. So you can look on my social media. There's also a Friends of Conshohocken Park social media, and you can also email friendsofconshockenparks@gmail.com if you're interested in buying a shirt. And then there's plenty of sizes available from women's to children's to men's. And then just a reminder that Saturday, October 17th is our contactless community cleanup. So if you check out the EAC or my social media pages, you'll find a link to register. And myself and the EAC will deliver cleaning kits to anyone who registers, and you can clean your street or your block. We have EAC face masks, we have bags, gloves, t-shirts, everything that you would need to participate in the event. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stokely?
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Barton?
Nothing tonight.
Ms. Patino?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, I would like to thank the borough staff and also the borough, Mike, the attorney, and our traffic engineer. With all of the hard work you put into the new development at 541 Hector, I just want to appreciate, I know the residents will appreciate the fact that even though it's a small development in scale compared to the, much larger developments on Fayette Street, this is a neighborhood and the residents really appreciate that we took the time to look at the traffic and make a very thoughtful decision on that and our plan to go forward. So again, thank you to everyone and to council for supporting this. Thanks so much.
Ms. Sokolowski?
Just a reminder to all our residents that the information on our website is full of a lot of the events that are going on. We had a fire smoke detector giveaway yesterday. There's a bunch of fire safety things coming up in the next week. There's a lot of events that I'm encouraging everybody to make sure you're going out on our website or social media to make sure that you're keeping up with what's going on in the borough. And that's where we post our agendas and topics. And if there's anything on those agendas or topics, we invite you to reach out to us, your council members, to talk about this stuff.
Thank you, Tina. Mr. Griffin?
Yes, the only thing I got is tell people to keep wearing their mask and stay their safe distance. That's all.
Thank you, Ike.
All right.
Is Chief Metz with us this evening?
I am, Colleen. I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brittany, do we have any submitted comments for public comment?
Thanks, Colleen. No, we did not receive any comments via email submission.
Okay. And do we have anyone on call for public comment?
Mr. Seiper, are you on?
Hi, yes, I am. Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Separ. Wasn't sure if this was appropriate for me to just jump in, and I'll try and keep my comments brief.
Can you just state your name and your address for the record, please?
Of course, yes. So my name is James Separ, and I live at 114 13th Avenue in Conshohocken, but I am a resident of White Marsh by about 20 feet. Should I continue?
Yeah, you can continue.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So the reason I joined this body tonight and the reason I'm taking your time, and I'll try and be as brief as I can, is I'm a longtime resident of this area, love the area, love the town. And I live right across from the B field, which you all know well. Great sports field there that's used by many organizations, teams, other types of events. We've had in our neighborhood, and I believe one of my other neighbors is on the call as well tonight, we've had just a series of unbelievable things going on over the last, I'm going to say 2 to 3 years, but this year seems to just be the absolute worst in terms of trash, the use of profanity, noise. I personally have suffered a financial loss with one of the parents of a Conshohocken Bear team member backing into my vehicle, I'm sure inadvertently, but then driving away, not bothering to leave a note or record it in any way. I've been in touch with Ms. DeSico, who's tried to help me. And I have also connected with the team and actually started there with the Conshohocken Bears. They're the principal source of the issue. Sorry, I didn't state that right up front. Trying to just work with them and try and get some relief from this. I've been talking to a gentleman by the name of Mark Benjamin, who is serves in some capacity to lead the organization. Seems like a very decent human being, although I believe he's in over his head. From really early in July until November, at least 3 nights a week and sometimes more, there are, in some cases, hundreds of people on the B field. Children, people parked all over the place, people tossing their trash, out the car window onto our neighbors' sidewalks, yards. And then there's, just really it goes till 10 o'clock at night. My neighbors and I, some of my neighbors have young children. We're older, my children are grown, and they were part of the Conshohocken Bears at one point. So it really saddens me to even be, making this complaint. But the reality of it is we've just suffered abuse at the hands of this one sports club. And my neighbors and I are just tired. I mean, they can't let their children outside because of profanity and other things going on. We regularly see parents letting their children urinate on the edge of the field or, that sort of thing, even though there is facilities. I know the borough has forced the club to actually have a porta potty type device, but people don't use it. Parking is completely out of control. Quite often I cannot come down the street and park in my own driveway. And speaking of that, I have had to call White Marsh and Conshohocken police repeatedly over the years to ask to have cars removed from my driveway where the owner would not move them. So sorry to sort of bring the mood down in the meeting, but I also want to thank this body for hearing me out. There's just issues that I think this field cannot support. It doesn't have the capacity to support the number of people that are involved in this organization. The Conshohocken Bears really aren't even made up of people largely from Conshohocken, White Marsh, and Plymouth anymore. And I would urge any of you to please come by on a practice night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, a lot of times Wednesday night too now, and just see what goes on here. I mean, there's no practicing of social distancing. Very few people have masks. Anyway, so that's what's going on. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mr. Syper. Do we
You're
have
welcome.
another public comment?
Yes, I'm here.
And could you
Can
state
you
your
hear
name
me?
for us?
Yes,
Yes.
it's Elizabeth Reese.
Address.
And your address, Elizabeth?
We live at 122 East 13th Avenue in Conshohocken, also
Okay.
on the White Marsh side.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you also for your time. We will, as well as our neighbor Jim, feel the same way. We are at our wits' end. We live in our family home for 65 years. I also have been, since I was a little girl, a part of the Conshohocken Bears. Growing up, my family, my parents, was a wonderful organization, but they have lost total control. We met with Mark, the president of the organization, because we felt that was the proper way to go through before getting involved with the township and with the borough. And Mark came to our home. We sat down and we talked. He really admitted several times how overwhelmed he is and he has no control. That scared us. One of the evenings too, we come home, we work until about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, and almost every time we come home, we cannot get in our driveway. We have to circle around the block till we can pull into our driveway. In addition to that, the profanity is disgusting. I have little grandchildren. I can't bring them to our home and have them sit outside with us and watch the kids playing, which we used to be able to do. The coaches, if they drop the F-bomb 100 times in a night to little children. So that's really upsetting. And the parking is out of control. There's people walking in the middle of the street. My brother comes over, he can't get out of the street. I mean, there's people urinating on the street, little kids getting changed in the middle of the street. It's not supposed to be that way. We have always enjoyed watching the program, and now it's like a circus. It's scary. It's upsetting. We have other neighbors that we all talk about it. I know several have written to you guys and sent emails in, and we're all at our wits' end, and we have tried. Just 2 weeks ago, they were there, and we were talking to Mark with Jim and his wife, and this person comes out of the back of our yard, walking out of our yard into the field. And he was supposedly with a visiting team having a scrimmage. I mean, it's bad enough that they have 6 or 7 of their own teams there practicing at the same time, and they were hosting a scrimmage. And Bill, my husband, Bill, asked them, you know, why is that allowed, that they're roaming in the back of our yard? And the guy, Mark, said, I have no control over that. Well, that's the way the problem is. There is no control. So we really are at our wits' end. We don't know what else to do, but we feel like we have lost our privacy in our own homes over this. And it used to be they didn't start till maybe end of August, September. Now they begin in July. They begin in July and go till November. So we don't know what the solution is, but we do also feel like we've become prisoners in our own homes because of it. And I really thank you for listening and hope that you will take into consideration changes or just not having them there anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Thank you, Mr. Syper. Ms. Checo, I believe the administration has been trying to address in the last few weeks. There have been incidents.
Yes, we've received complaints from residents in the area. I've spoken
As have
with
I, yes.
Barr and Ms. Reese. We've had numerous conversations with the board president in terms of detailing changes and items that need to be addressed effective immediately. I would say about a month later, since there was no change, we had a follow-up correspondence with the board president, basically asking them to change their behavior because they did not take the initiative that we requested of them a month earlier. When asked by the 2 individuals that you heard from this evening, next steps, it was recommended that they bring their concerns to the attention of Borough Council. I think what we are working on administratively right now is compiling all complaints, concerns, police reports, etc., that has been taking place over the course of the last 60 days. And I think where we're at is that once we've finalized compiling all of those items, that we would then disseminate them to council and continue that conversation regarding what the future of the Bears organization is in terms of utilizing the A field and the B field, considering the state that our facilities have been in when they're using them. So that is the real concern, is we expect when someone's utilizing one of our facilities that we get that facility back in the state that we received it in, and that is not what is happening.
Correct.
Is this something new this year, or has this been a gradual getting worse over the last several years?
I believe it's been a gradual. I know that we had incidents last year also that we had to address, and the year before. So it is just something that is gradually getting worse every year. Am I correct in that, saying that, Steph?
Yeah, I would say that, we've had complaints and we've had our issues in terms of the Bears organization over the last couple of years. This year, it is definitely heightened and have escalated.
Right.
And do we have similar issues when we have rugby and frisbee on that field?
Not from my experience. Sorry.
Not mine either. We actually enjoy watching them.
Mm-hmm. People are generally respectful, clean up after themselves, but not. This organization's just too large for this venue. It's just too many people.
Right. And Tina, I could say with it being in my ward, the only time I have ever received complaints is just for this organization, none of the other ones.
Okay. Then yeah, I would say that we need to look at it administratively and really take a hard look
Yes.
Okay, so what I will be doing is basically pulling all of the documentation that we have to date. So again, that includes, I have the Director of Recreation, Lauren. She actually put together an entire document relevant to all of the complaints and concerns that she's received in 2020. So that will be going to you this week, along with Chief Metz, who's compiled all of the police reports that have been received either in Conshohocken or in White Marsh. And then we really need to have a further discussion in terms of utilization of the facility by the Bears organization in particular.
Yes. Anyone else have any questions? Go ahead, Tina.
And then I would say that based on what I'm hearing, that field has a capacity number that we probably need to figure out for future as well, as far as how many participants really can be on that field at any given time.
Correct.
It's noted, Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Steph, for that and doing the research for us. And in the next 2 weeks, we can review everything, all of council and the administration, and see if we can come to some sort of conclusion.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yes.
Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else for public comment?
Yes, hi, this is Scott Langstein, 200 West Elm Street. I just want to thank you for going to the all virtual version versus the hybrid version that you're using on past council meetings. This is, in my opinion, significantly better. I was able to hear everything. So thank you for doing that. The other thing was just, I guess, more of a probably a question for Ray based on the information around the Plymouth Creek flood project. I think I mentioned it back a while ago at another meeting that many years ago we were approached about I have some documentation up here. It's a Caldwell Lane diversion pipe project. It was proposed back, or it was supposed to happen back in 2014. And I was wondering if anyone knows if that is still on kind of the agenda to take place, or has that been, I guess, is that been replaced with some other project that I think, Ray, you mentioned there was some work that was done a couple years ago?
So I am not aware of anything that happened in 2014. I know that recently it appears that some of the flood issues and some of the other issues that we've had on Caldwell Lane have been somewhat reduced. And the only thing that we, as a group, both Plymouth and Conshohocken and the staffs of both those municipalities to come up with is there's been a lot of work done in the Brook Road area where Danella has put in a new facility. They've had to do a lot of infrastructure work around the creek, and we believe maybe that has caused some of the reduction in flooding. But as far as diverting anything from what is currently there, I have no information on that. If there's any type of work such as that is projected, I know it would be extremely expensive. So I don't know where the funding for that would come from, whether it would be a DEP mitigation grant, but I am unfamiliar with anything currently in the works along the Plymouth Creek.
This is Anita. We did talk about that quite a while ago. I think they basically just went in and cleaned out instead of doing anything of that magnitude. I do remember Paul, I can't think of his last name, from RVB, was in on that, and that was a long time ago.
Paul Hughes.
Thank you, Paul Hughes. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's I have the engineering plans and
right.
Yep.
Right, but nothing ever was forwarded on that. They just cleaned out, and that was about all.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else for public comment? Okay, thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, Ike.
Good night.
Night, Anita. Feel like the Waltons. Good night, everybody. Check it out.